trying to be independent, trying to not need too much, that you forgot emotional safety is not a luxury, it's a need. You deserve to be somewhere where your nervous system can exhale, where your feelings aren't just tolerated, they're welcomed. You're allowed to ask, am I safe here? Can I be soft here? Can I be real here? The spaces that demand your silence in exchange for connection are not safe. They're survival zones, and you've outgrown them. You need warmth. You need presence. You need truth without punishment. These aren't weaknesses, they're birthrights. So if a place, person, or pattern doesn't honor your wholeness, you're allowed to walk away. Let your next chapter be the one where you stop negotiating for crumbs of comfort and start choosing spaces that feel like oxygen. You've treated yourself like a puzzle, like a problem to fix, like you're broken because you feel deeply, because you still ache. But your emotions are not defects. Your processing is not a glitch. You are not a malfunction. You are a being with layers, with stories, with depth. Stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what happened to me? What have I survived? This is the shift from pathology to compassion, from diagnosis to dignity. You are not the problem. You are the one carrying the solution inside once someone finally listens. So today, let that listener be you. Let yourself be the space where no feeling gets shamed, where no part gets exiled. Because you are not here to be fixed. You are here to be held. And if that truth stirred something in you, Pastor Zion is waiting at 11 a.m. He doesn't tiptoe around pain. He meets it with fire, scripture, and soul. Let him remind you that faith and healing can live in the same sentence, that you don't have to choose between belief and emotion. He'll carry this thread forward. You just have to show up. Same grace, same truth, different voice. Somewhere along the path, you learned to suppress your needs, not because they weren't real, but because they weren't safe. Maybe love was conditional. Maybe attention only came when you excelled. Maybe emotions were dismissed, mocked, or misunderstood. So you adapted. You became hyper-aware of others, but disconnected from yourself. You checked the temperature of every room before daring to speak your truth. It's not that you're needy. It's that your needs were never welcomed. And that wound runs deep. It shows up in your relationships, in your overthinking, in your overfunctioning. But just because they didn't know how to hold your needs doesn't mean your needs were wrong. You are allowed to want, to feel, to take up emotional space. Relearning that isn't weakness, it's revolution. Today, we begin that revolution by naming the silence you were forced to survive. You don't have to collapse to deserve care. You don't have to prove you're struggling enough before you ask for support. That belief that your pain must be dramatic to be valid was a lie handed to you by a world obsessed with productivity and performance. You're allowed to be tender. You're allowed to ask for help before you're in pieces. Support isn't a last resort. It's part of what keeps you whole. Let go of the pride that says you must do it all alone. Let go of the fear that someone will think you're weak. There is strength in interdependence. There is wisdom in asking before you break. You are not a burden. You are a being worthy of gentleness. And every time you reach out, you rewrite the script that said silence was your only option. Disappointment is not petty. It's not dramatic. It's not weakness. It's a sign you were honest about your hopes and something didn't meet them. Maybe it was a friend who didn't show up, a parent who stayed emotionally distant, a partner who couldn't hold your truth. Disappointment lives in that quiet gap between what you longed for and what you received. It deserves to be felt, not rushed, not minimized, not swallowed in the name of maturity. You don't have to slap gratitude on a moment that let you down. You're allowed to grieve the version of love you were hoping for. Naming your disappointment doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you human. So name it, and in naming it, you give your heart permission to heal honestly. They taught you to be selfless, to put others first, to sacrifice your feelings for peace. But in that script, you disappeared, and now it's time to return to yourself. Emotional needs are not flaws. They're signals, requests for connection, indicators that something sacred in you is calling out. Wanting to be seen is not needy. Wanting to feel safe is not dramatic. Wanting to matter is not selfish. You are not too much. You are not an inconvenience. You're a whole person with a nervous system, a heart, a longing to be known. You don't need to earn emotional support through perfection or performance. You're worthy of it because you exist. Repeat that to yourself until the lie unravels. You've been told directly or indirectly, that your emotions are too much, too messy. too disruptive. So you stuffed them down. You made yourself small. You learned how to cry silently, how to nod when you wanted to scream. But your feelings are not flaws. They're not problems to solve. They are data. They are signals. They are sacred. You don't need to sanitize your sadness or shrink your anger into politeness. You are not an inconvenience for having a nervous system that reacts to pain, to joy, to confusion. The people who made you feel too much were often not equipped to hold their own feelings, let alone yours. That's not your fault, and it's not your burden to carry. Your emotional world is rich. It's intelligent. It's honest. Let it breathe. There is space for your feelings here, all of them. You don't have to justify your healing. You don't need to explain your boundaries. You don't owe anyone a PowerPoint presentation about why you're different now. Growth can be quiet. Healing can be personal. Transformation doesn't need a witness to be real. Let people think what they want. Let them create their own narratives. You don't exist to make everyone comfortable with the version of you that's finally telling the truth. You're allowed to change without asking for permission. You're allowed to walk away without giving a closing statement. The old you explained too much to be palatable. The new you prioritizes peace. And that is a holy shift. So the next time someone asks you to over-explain your self-respect, simply say, "I'm protecting my peace," and let that be enough. You stopped crying. You stopped reacting. You started saying, "It doesn't bother me anymore." But numb isn't the same as healed. It's just quieter pain. Pain that went underground. Pain that hasn't had the safety to speak. If your chest feels hollow instead of light, if your peace feels cold instead of calming, that might not be healing. That might be shut down. You deserve better than survival mode. You deserve a nervous system that's not constantly bracing for impact. Healing doesn't just mean not crying. It means feeling safe to feel. It means joy can live in your body without guilt. It means you can laugh again without waiting for the crash. So don't stop at numb. That's not your final destination. You're allowed to feel again, fully, freely, without fear. They told you to be grateful, to settle, to accept that this barely functioning life was good enough. But you were not born for burnout. You were not created to just get through it. You're allowed to want joy, not just relief, love, not just tolerance, peace, not just distraction. Asking for more isn't entitlement. It's alignment. It's you realizing that survival is the floor, not the ceiling. There's no gold medal for suffering in silence. There's no award for staying in places that drain your spirit. Wanting to thrive is not selfish. It's sacred. So, if you've been whispering, there has to be more than this, you're right. There is. And you're allowed to want it. You're allowed to reach for it. You're allowed to build it. There are needs you've buried, thirsts you've silenced, parts of yourself you pushed aside because someone once made them feel wrong. The need to be heard, the need to rest, the need to be nurtured, to be held without earning it, to be soft without apologizing for it. You were taught that certain needs were too much, that they'd make you needy, dramatic, selfish. But that was never true. They were just uncomfortable with your fullness. So you shrank. You internalized guilt for having normal human emotions. You mastered self-denial like it was a survival skill. But hear this, you don't have to abandon your needs to be worthy of love. Your need for tenderness, your need for consistency, your need for safety, they are not burdens, they are birthrights. So today, tend to them gently, patiently, like a garden that's been left too long without sunlight. Start watering the parts of you that have waited in silence. They're ready to grow. Your inner critic isn't your true voice, that harsh voice in your head, the one that calls you lazy, unworthy, not enough. That's not your intuition. That's not your truth. That's a recording, a loop, a ghost of someone else's fear. You weren't born doubting your value. You learned to. Somewhere between criticism and rejection, you started mistaking that voice for your own. But your true self speaks in a different tone, softer, wiser, kinder. It says, you're doing your best. You're allowed to rest. You are lovable even when you're not productive. That inner critic, it's trying to keep you safe by keeping you small. But you're not small. You're expansive. You're evolving. So when that voice gets loud, don't fight it. Just pause, breathe, and ask, who taught me this? Then return to the truth. And the truth is, you are already enough as you are. If they make you feel guilty for needing reassurance, for wanting clarity, for asking for time or space or truth, that's not love. That's manipulation. Your needs are not flaws. They are clues, indicators of your emotional reality. And in the right relationships, you won't be punished for expressing them. You won't be labeled dramatic for naming what's hurting. You won't be ghosted for asking for depth. The right people will say, "Thank you for telling me," not "You're too much." You've been taught to shrink, to second guess, to delay your truth for someone else's comfort. But now you're rewriting that script. You're reclaiming your emotional needs as sacred, valid, and worth honoring. Anyone who requires your silence to love you doesn't truly love you. So let your needs rise. Let them be heard. And trust the ones who stay are the ones who can hold all of you. They think because you're kind, you'll bend. Because you're patient, you'll stay past your breaking point. Because you love deeply, you'll tolerate anything. But there's a difference between love and self-abandonment, between understanding and over-functioning. You can be soft and still say no. You can be compassionate and still walk away. You can be gentle and still have unshakable standards. Being a good person doesn't mean being a doormat. Your softness is a gift, but it is not a pass for people to treat you poorly. So say it out loud. My boundaries are not up for debate. My time is valuable. My love is precious. The right ones won't ask you to trade your self-respect for their convenience. They'll meet you with honor. And if they don't, you already know what to do. You've learned to survive on scraps, emotionally, energetically, relationally. You've mastered the art of making do with the bare minimum, and you've convinced yourself, maybe this is all there is. Maybe this is what love looks like. But it's not. And deep down, you know that. You're allowed to ask for more. More presence, more reciprocity, more truth, more safety. You are not too much for wanting depth. You are not greedy for craving emotional clarity. You are not difficult for needing consistent care. The bar has been set low for so long, you forgot what high standards feel like. But here's your reminder. You were never meant to beg for the bare minimum. You are worthy of abundance, in love, in attention, in support. So let this be the moment you stop making excuses for people who can't meet you. You are not asking for too much. You're asking the wrong people. They told you your feelings were excessive. Your empathy made you fragile. Your tears made you unstable. So you learned to hide it, to toughen up, to numb down. But let me offer another truth. Your sensitivity is sacred. It's not a flaw. It's your gift. You notice what others miss. You feel the undercurrents in a room. You anticipate pain before it speaks. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. In a world that rushes, you pause. In a world that ignores, you sense. In a world that numbs, you feel. That is power, not pathology. So stop apologizing for your softness. It's not your job to desensitize. It's your job to protect the beauty of your emotional depth. Sensitivity isn't the opposite of strength. It's the proof of it. And the right people will never use it against you. You've been so conditioned to prioritize everyone else's comfort that you abandoned your own truth. You said yes when your soul said no. You smiled when your spirit cracked. You silenced your ache because someone else needed you quiet. But what happens to the parts of you that never get voiced? What happens to the needs you constantly override? They don't disappear. They turn inward, into resentment, into burnout, into disconnection from self. That's the cost of emotional self-abandonment. But you don't have to live like that anymore. Today, you get to reclaim your emotional center. You get to pause and ask, what do I feel? What do I need? What boundary have I ignored? You get to listen to the parts of you that whisper, the ones that never got airtime. You are not too much. You are not selfish. You are not broken. You are coming home to yourself, and that home is sacred. Never silence it again. Some days you'll feel light, clear, strong. Other days the weight returns without warning. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. Healing doesn't happen in straight lines. It spirals. It loops. It revisits. You might think, I already healed this. But suddenly the wound is raw again. That's not regression. It's deepening. It's your system showing you another layer ready for love. You're not starting over. You're moving forward with more awareness this time. So offer yourself grace on the hard days. Celebrate the gentle days and trust. Both are valid. Both are progress. You are not broken. You are breaking open. And everything opening is an invitation to meet yourself with compassion. Somewhere along the way, you internalized the lie that you're too complicated to love, too emotional, too intense, too much. But what if that wasn't truth, just poor translation? What if your depth was simply foreign to those who only swim in shallow waters? You've been misunderstood, not unlovable, misread, not broken. Your complexity isn't a curse. It's a symphony of insight, intuition, and soul. You ask the questions that matter. You feel the things others ignore. You seek connection, not performance. That doesn't make you difficult. It makes you discerning. The right people will recognize your rhythm. They'll lean in, not away. They won't ask you to shrink. They'll expand to meet you. So stop twisting yourself into shapes to fit where you were never meant to be. You are not hard to love. You just haven't been fully seen. Your mind might forget, but your body never does. The tension in your shoulders, the clench in your jaw, the flutter in your stomach. These aren't random. They're messages, echoes of experiences. Your nervous system survived. Sometimes healing begins, not with logic, but with listening. To the sigh when you finally rest, to the ache when something feels wrong, to the calm when something feels right. Your body is wise. It has been storing truths you weren't ready to name, but you're ready now. Ready to ask, what are you trying to tell me? Ready to offer safety to the parts of you that have been on high alert for years. Trust what you feel, not just in your head, but in your chest, your gut, your breath. Healing is remembering, and your body is the first witness.